Will the real Dan Sullivan in Alaska please stand up? The vice president's in Switzerland negotiating with the Iranians. And my gosh, the left is obsessed with the reflecting pool. We're going to find out why. Welcome to the Sean Spicer Show. Let's get in it. All right, guys, I hope you had a great weekend and a happy Father's Day. To all those who celebrated, as the left would like to say. I know I did. Not that unlike a lot of days, though. You do a lot of fun stuff with the kids, but, it was just a little bit more special when you kind of reflect on the day and what it all means. I hope, just one point, if you still have your dad, I hope you had a chance to talk to him. If you don't, if you haven't talked to your parents in a while, think about it. Those of us who only have one parent left, you want to make sure you always have that final conversation while you still can. It's an amazing thing that you don't fully appreciate until one of them's gone. Anyway, speaking of people that are gone, breaking news this morning, Alan Greenspan, the former Fed chairman, who served like 4 or 5 presidents, 20 years at the Fed, you think about that, passed away at 100 years old earlier today through complications of Parkinson's disease. I got to tell you, 100 years old, holy smokes. Very influential, very different than the world that we live in now where the Fed chairman, barely can last one term. Anyway, we've got a great show coming your way. Senator Dan Sullivan of Alaska is here. And I got to tell you, the reason I emphasize that is the Dems were doing some nasty tricks to win this. They literally put a guy on the ballot named Dan Sullivan. The guy literally put a campaign website up and made signs that mirrored the current incumbent Republican Senator Dan Sullivan. They got that wacky ranked choice voting system in Alaska, and I think this was their attempt to try to screw with people. But anyway, we're going to get the latest from the Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan, the real Dan Sullivan, in a little bit. But one cool thing that happened, I posted this on Instagram. The larger plane that is used for Air Force One, now just a little inside the Beltway discussion. Whenever the president's on a plane, it becomes Air Force One. So it doesn't matter if it's big or a crop duster or whatever, it becomes Air Force One. But the old plane was tail number 29,000, SAM, Special Air Mission 2900. So if it didn't have the president on it, that's what it would be referred to. It was retired over the weekend. I posted some cool shots. I'll keep doing that as I dig them out. It was cool to be aboard that. But that brand new 747 that was gifted by the Qataris was retrofitted, got all the security bells and whistles, and the president unveiled it. It's pretty cool. Take a look at this. The one thing that's interesting is the president wanted to redesign the plane. It's not that baby blue that you've seen since the Kennedy era. He wanted it to be sharp red, white, and blue like the flag. And when he initially unveiled the new colors, remember he was going to be leaving office and all the Dems and everyone said, oh, we're not going to do this. But this goes back to this whole point of Trump 2.0. Because of the 4 years intervening, he came back. He talks about all this time, FIFA and all this stuff that's happened. But he even got to change the colors of the plane. So it's now a sharp red, white, and blue, the presidential seal right there on the belly, a waving flag on the tail. Kind of cool. And he will fly that over to the NATO summit in Turkey in just a few days for its first maiden voyage trip. That's got to be pretty cool to be aboard when that thing happens. Anyway, speaking of overseas, though, Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, he's out. Actually out. And it was funny. I said this on Twitter, then the president said it, and all these people in the media were like, without evidence. And sure enough, this morning, the Prime Minister of England, Keir Starmer, resigned. Andy Burnham's set to take over. It's a whole interest. This system still amazes me. This guy runs for a seat in Parliament, immediately challenges Starmer. Starmer resigns. I mean, he is the 6th Prime Minister to leave before his term was up in the last decade. I mean, for as many complaints as we have about our system, pretty crazy. Take a look. This is Keir Starmer earlier today.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision. I will ask the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party to set out a timetable with nominations opening on the 9th of July and completed by the summer recess. In the case of a contest, this will ensure a new leader is in place before Parliament returns in September. I will remain in post as Prime Minister until the contest is complete. And when I leave the biggest job in the country, I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife, Vic, who has been a rock by my side through good times and bad, and being the best dad I can to my beautiful children, who are my pride and my joy. Thank you very much.
Such an interesting system. I mean, think about it. 6th prime minister in 10 years. When you move in, you're pretty much not hanging anything because you don't know how long you're going to be there for. Was it Liz Truss served for, I don't know, was it a few weeks? It's amazing how different it is. You don't get a term. I mean, you do, but the way things are rolling there, as I said, Donald Trump truthing out over the weekend. He said Keir Starmer will resign as president of the United Kingdom. He failed badly on 2 important subjects, immigration and energy, open North Sea oil. I wish him well. And it's going to be really interesting how this new prime minister, it's, again, new Labour Party leader who will then obviously, because Labour has a majority, become immediately prime minister when Parliament reconvenes. Such a fascinating system. And I think sometimes we get frustrated with our own and then we look abroad and go, okay, maybe it's not that bad. But speaking of the UK, I got to laugh. I mean, we talk about fake news in this country all the time. Check out what the BBC did, the British Broadcasting Company. They hosted a World Cup studio on Wednesday, shortly after the DR Congo 1-1 draw. So the DR, the Democratic Republic Congo, are playing. And they've got their little studio set up to kind of do analysis. Anyway, the DR Congo was playing against Portugal, my bad. Any case, the studio was broadcasting and trying to show Houston where the game was playing, and it had a picture of the skyline. But the Brits thought to themselves, what's wrong with this skyline? Well, there's no mountains. There's no mountains. So they AI generated mountains into the landscape, into the backdrop. It was unbelievable. But I mean, we talk all the time about fake news. This is literally the epitome of fake news. They don't like the view or something, so they just add it as if no one's going to notice what the landscape and the skyline of Houston are. There's no mountains. I mean, I just, how does someone think they're going to get away with that? All right, I need to jump in and tell you guys, if you're 64 years old, about to go on Medicare, know someone who's on Medicare, or have a loved one that's on, this is for you. I just spent 19 minutes, and I counted all of them, 19 minutes on the phone with the folks from Chapter to evaluate the Medicare program that my own mom was on. And guess what? I'll give you the bottom line up front. She's on the right one. But the folks at Chapter went over with her all of her doctors, her prescription drugs, any potential surgeries or procedures that she might want to have, and then evaluated every single Medicare program in the country, nationwide, figured out which was best for her. It was unbelievable because most people don't realize that the Medicare system isn't built to help you make the best decision. It's built to be confusing, so you pick whatever's in front of you. That's why I got to tell you about these folks at Chapter. It is the only Medicare advisor that compares every single plan nationwide, everyone. Their advisors are super honest because they don't get paid to push one plan over the other. They look at all of your different variables, your doctors, your prescription drugs. If you're already on the right plan, like my mom was, they say stay on it. Let's touch base in 6 months, see what else is going on in your life. If not, they'll help you switch. And just last year, the people who did switch, check this out. They found new plans through Chapter, saved an average of $1,100. This was the best 19 minutes that I spent with my mom going over her Medicare program. You should do it too. Give the folks at Chapter a call, 978-746-2315. Once again, that's 978-746-2315. We'll put the number in the show notes if you have any concerns. I'm telling you, it's under 20 minutes every time. It's the best 20 minutes you will spend. Give the folks at Chapter a call. Now back to the show. All right, before I bring in Senator Dan Sullivan to talk about his race, what's going on there, because remember, this Alaska race is one of those 9 that I talked about all the time. This is critical, and I've been reaching out to some of these current members of the Senate and challengers / candidates, so like Ashley Hinson in Iowa and Michael Whatley in North Carolina. We're going to try to get them all on, but today we want to start with Dan Sullivan of Alaska. This is one of those 9 contested races. This is one where the Dems really do think they can take it over. Chuck Schumer understands this. You think about some of these smaller states, Maine, right? Iowa, Alaska, where the media market makes it a cheap date. They can go in and buy it up and blow $1 million, $2 million really easily to see if it moves the needle. Texas, on the other hand, not so much. It's very expensive. Ohio is kind of expensive too. But you get some of these smaller states, while they're attractive to the Democrats, this would be a flip. And they really want to do this. Anyway, we're going to talk to him in just a second. But the other big story, obviously, is Iran. The vice president over the weekend flying to Switzerland for these talks with the Iranians. And I'm just going to tell you guys this right now. This is my opinion here. This is going to be the story for the next several months. The strait is closed. It's not closed. We have a deal. We don't have a deal. They're allowing inspectors. They're not allowing inspectors. A lot happening. Big news coming out from the vice president himself that they're going to allow inspectors in. Here's my view. That's great. That's good news. But we continue to have to trust and verify everything the Iranians say. Because will they allow inspectors in? Where will they be able to go? How often will they be able to come in? The proof is going to be in the pudding. And I'm just telling you, keep an eye on this. But it is off to a good start. Let me play you a little bit about what Lindsey Graham had to say about it. Take a look.
Let's try a diplomatic solution. I think it's going to fail. What happens next? I spent 4.5 hours with President Trump Friday. Here's what I think will happen next. If this deal fails, President Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz over by force. The United States will control the Strait of Hormuz. We'll charge a fee for all those who go through to pay for the operation. And we're going to expand the Abraham Accords in calendar year 2026. We're going to get Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords, and which is the biggest change in 5,000 years in the Mideast. And if Iran contests control of the Strait of Hormuz by the United States, we will obliterate them. So to all the people listening, if this diplomatic effort fails, President Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz. Yep. We're going to run it. We're going to try to get Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords in the Arab-Israeli conflict in 2026. And if Iran continues to attack Israel and Lebanon, the new policy will be we'll hit Iran. So to the Iranians, if you're listening, when you use Hezbollah to attack Israel, I think the new policy will be we will attack Iran.
I mean, that pretty much lays it out. I may not be as pessimistic as Senator Graham, because I think Iran wants to do this. Now, again, a deal today, a deal tomorrow, I'm not sure about a month, meaning these inspectors need to go in and have access. This is the deal. Obama had a deal where inspectors got in, and then they started to say, well, you can't come on Tuesdays, and you can only look here, et cetera, et cetera. So the proof will be in the pudding. I'm happy and I'm optimistic so far. Good work, good news. But we cannot take our eye off the ball. These guys are notorious for their evasion, their obfuscation, etc. So keep an eye on this. Good first step, good news. The vice president himself coming out this morning and talking about that. Take a look.
We made a lot of good progress. We did exactly what we wanted to do, which is accomplish 4 things for the American people. First, we wanted to build a mechanism for keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. It is open. We've seen, of course, gas prices and oil prices come down, millions and millions of barrels of crude and natural gas flowing through the Strait of Hormuz that weren't flowing before. But we also wanted to make sure that we actually set up the coordination mechanism so that we could demine the Straits of Hormuz, so that when there are the conflicts that inevitably come up, we can make sure we work through them rather than that leading to escalation. And that is exactly what we did yesterday. Number 2, we also wanted to build a mechanism, a similar mechanism, for deconfliction for the regional ceasefire. As the President of the United States has himself said, sometimes these ceasefires just mean you're shooting a little bit less, but we wanted to make sure that we had the proper coordination set up so that if there is shooting, if Hezbollah fires at Israel or if Israel responds, if there are other conflicts that arise in the region, we're actually talking to each other and figuring out how to stop the shooting, how to make the region safer, our allies, and everybody else. We set that up as well. Number 3, and this is probably what we're most excited about as Americans, the Iranians have agreed to invite IAEA inspectors back into their country. That is a major milestone for the American people and the first step in permanently denuclearizing or permanently ending a nuclear weapons program in Iran. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. That's exactly what we asked to happen. We made a lot of great progress on other nuclear talks. And that leads me to the final thing that we wanted to accomplish, which is actually set up the process for the technical negotiations that will follow. Our teams working with the Iranians, the Qataris, and the Pakistanis made great progress yesterday. They will continue to work at the technical level with the teams here in Bergenstock. And then those technical negotiations are going to continue over the weeks and days to come. We wanted to set up a structure for that so that you could have proper political oversight, but obviously, as much as this place is very beautiful, I can't stay here for the next 60 days. I'm about to go back home to the United States. But the technical teams are going to be working with proper oversight to make sure that we're accomplishing the objectives that matter for everybody.
Okay, so that's the important part. This is the framework. Details to come. Devil will be in the details. We will keep an eye on all this. Again, it's a great first step. We're on the path. Let's keep an eye on this. We will monitor it. We'll update you as we continue to have those teams report out. All right, I got to jump in and talk to you guys about sleep real quick, because remember back in your 20s, you can get by on maybe 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep. Not anymore. I need 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but I need good quality sleep, which is why I've added Beam's Dream Powder to my nightly routine. Now, every flavor that you choose, whether it's the cinnamon cocoa one or the brownie battered one, all have the same 5 all-natural amazing ingredients: reishi, apigenin, L-theanine, magnesium, melatonin, and that's it. 30 minutes before I go to bed, I take 1 scoop, and I'm out like a light. I sleep well. I wake up feeling completely refreshed. You got to add Beam's Dream Powder to your nightly routine. Go to Shop Beam, B-E-A-M, shopbeam.com/Spicer for up to 40% off when you use code word Spicer. Shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer. Trust me, you'll thank me for this later. Back to the show. Without further ado, well, actually, wait, before I tell you about Senator Dan Sullivan, quick little preview. So on tomorrow, Adam Kincaid's going to be here. Again, we're going to run through every single state and its impact on redistricting. Like nowhere else, like no one else. You will not see this anywhere else on the entire internet. We've done this before. I know a lot of you love this. We'll actually talk about what the lay of the landscape looks like heading into the midterms. How many seats can Republicans count on or not? What are their chances of keeping? We'll go through California, Texas, Maryland, Georgia. What did we end up actually getting? What will we get next cycle? That's what we're going to talk about with Adam Kincaid. He is the best at this. We've had him on before. I think the response has been great. We'll do that tomorrow. On Wednesday, James Blair, the top political advisor to President Trump, he will be here. How much is MAGA going to spend? When are they going to spend it? Where are they going to spend it? We're going to ask James Blair all of those questions, plus low propensity voters. Democrats are on the, they feel really buoyed these days. We'll ask them all those questions politically. And then Thursday, from the State Fair, America State Fair, that thing that's happening on the National Mall, America 250 State Fair, Monica Crowley, Ambassador Monica Crowley, will join us live from the State Fair on Thursday. You're not going to want to miss this. So what a week we have for you. But without further ado, I want to bring in the senator from Alaska, the real Dan Sullivan. Senator Dan Sullivan, welcome to the show. I almost got confused. Just tell me what's going on with this guy, Dan Sullivan. Like, where did he come from, and how did this guy even, is this a Democrat shenanigans game?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, hey, Sean, great to be on the show. Thank you. It's always great to be with you, my fellow Naval Academy board member, fellow 06, Captain Spicer. I love that, as a retired Marine colonel. We're in that same category, too, which is great. But
it's a division of the Navy. You know that, right, sir?
My dad, who was a Navy guy, used to always say that as well. It is a division of the Navy, a department of the Navy, the Marine Corps. But
I got to be honest with you. I got this was a stunt, though. But here's the deal. I've never seen anybody get removed from the ballot. I kudos to whoever, your team, the state party. Explain to viewers right now, though, who are just understanding this. There's a guy also named Dan Sullivan, who used literally basically the Senator Dan Sullivan logo that you've been using for multiple cycles to try to do this. And then how did this thing play out? Like, did you just...
Sean, I mean, let me just, I'll give a little background, and I'm glad you're asking about it. Look, the National Democrats care about one thing, and that's power. Schumer wants to get back as majority leader. Schumer has said his pathway to the majority is through Alaska, right? And it's not my seat, it's the state of Alaska. It's their seat. So the background, my main opponent is a former liberal congresswoman named Mary Peltola. She's a Democrat, served 2 terms, got fired by the Alaskan people in 2024 because she didn't do anything. 2 terms in the Congress, never got a bill passed into law. So at the last minute in our filing, the Democrats recruited a far left guy. His goes by Daniel P. Sullivan. Okay, he's a far.
And you are what? Daniel J. Right?
Well, he's a J. I think PJ. He's it's not my initial, but he's a far left liberal, right? He's donated to Act Blue. He's got a long history. He's donated to my Democrat opponent Peltola twice. So at the last minute, he files. Okay. Everybody has a right to file, but he files as a Republican. He's never been a Republican. He's a far lefty. And Sean, it starts a series of facts that he wasn't filing. He wasn't in it to win it. He was in it to rig it. What do I mean by that? His whole purpose was to confuse Alaskan voters between his name and my name and appearing on the ballot to appear like me. So let me just give you some examples. He comes in as Dan Sullivan as a Republican. Well, that's who I am. He's not a Republican. Then, to your point, his website, his letterhead, his campaign logo. I mean, take a look. He just steals mine. It's 98% mine. If your viewers can see this, right? Again, the whole purpose is what? To confuse Alaskans. Then we realized this later. I didn't even know this. He actually tried to file as Dan S. Sullivan, middle initial S. Well, that's my middle initial. That's not even his middle initial, right? So now he's really trying to confuse Alaskan voters again to pull votes from me because people think I'm voting for the incumbent Senator Dan Sullivan, who's a Republican, accidentally vote for him to rig it for the Democrat. Now you're like, well, wait a minute. Is the Democrat involved? Heck yeah. So the person who wrote the sham Dan Sullivan's press release with the stolen logo on it, that's his, that's mine, was a longtime Democrat consultant and Mary Peltola supporter. The Democrat writing this guy's press release. So look, this, is an annoyance to me, but this shows contempt for the great people that I get to represent. Because,
but he got kicked off the ballot, right?
Well, he got kicked off the ballot because we presented these facts to the lieutenant governor and the head of the Division of Elections. By the way, they then reached out to him saying, hey, these are pretty serious allegations. Here's 7 questions you need to answer. By the way, you need to answer them under oath with the penalty of perjury. And guess what he did? He never even responded. He never responded. So the lieutenant governor and director of elections in Alaska said, look, people have the right to run for office, but if their primary purpose is to confuse Alaskans to rig the election in favor of somebody else, again, if they're not in it to win it, but in it to rig it, then they don't have that right. You don't have the right to confuse. So right now, the Division of Elections director sent a letter to him saying, sorry, as the director of Division of Elections, my number one priority under statute is to safeguard the integrity of the Alaskan system and make sure that people are not confused when they go to vote. And right now, your candidacy seems to be primarily about doing that. So he was booted, and we'll see if the Democrats try to litigate him being on the ballot. So far, they haven't. But, to be honest, I'm expecting them to try to sue the state of Alaska to force a sham candidate on the ballot to confuse voters and rig the election for the liberal Democrat that I'm running against. But look, Sean, I'm going to run.
But what I want to understand is, can I just ask the senator, is this because he wasn't trying to beat you, right? Because you okay, but you have ranked choice voting in Alaska. So was this about him trying to undermine the number of votes you got, or
Correct.
him being second? I mean, just that's what people need to understand, right? This wasn't about beating the real Dan Sullivan.
Not
this
at all.
was screwing with the ranked choice voting, right?
This is you're exactly right. We have this ranked choice voting system. There's no longer a party primary system. Remember, if this was a party primary system and this guy who's a far left liberal jumps in to run against me in a Republican primary, I would crush him, right? But what they're doing right now is he's not in it to win it. He's in it to confuse people. That's why he's filing under the same name that I have. Dan Sullivan's filed. That's why he's filing and saying, I'm a Republican. He's not a Republican. He's never donated to Republicans. Under our ranked choice voting system, it's not legally clear whether or not you can usurp a political party and say, hey, I'm a Republican. He's not. And then the other thing is that you just saw there, he's clearly trying to confuse voters by saying, hey, this is my website, which is the same as the real senator, the incumbent senator. That would be me. And then there's this evidence that, and it's not evidence, it's just a fact, that the supporters of my Democrat opponent are the ones behind his campaign. So it is dirty tricks at its worst to try to manipulate a system. And again, what it really is doing is just showing the Democrats will do anything to gain power, but that they have disdain for the voters of Alaska. They're essentially saying, hey, look, maybe we can trick a few thousand votes to vote for the wrong Dan Sullivan with all these things that look similar and throw the election to the Democrats. So again, this guy's not in it to win it. He's in it to rig it for the Democrat opponent of mine, Mary Peltola. And Peltola's, everybody involved in this scheme, this fake candidate, this Democrat consultant, they're all Peltola supporters. These are the facts. And our lieutenant governor and our director of elections said, we're not allowing this scheme to go forward. And remember, Sean, this matters for Alaska, but this also matters for America. We are the firewall for freedom for the country, we in Alaska. What do I mean by that? Schumer has said Peltola was his hand-picked top recruit, right? A liberal Democrat, former congresswoman. And he has said his pathway to regaining the majority for the Senate is through Alaska. So this seat, this race matters not just to my state, because Schumer has a horrible record when he's been in power of shutting down Alaska resource development, of gutting our military, of gutting our Second Amendment. But this matters way beyond just Alaska. This matters for America. So my state right now, this race, we're the firewall for freedom for the country. And that's why every American should be kind of appalled. But I will tell you again, this is just contempt for the people I'm honored to serve. They're trying to trick them. And by the way, they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. The only way we found out that Peltola's supporters were actually supporting and advising this sham candidate was that when he put out his press release with my stolen campaign logo, they forgot to swipe the metadata on that document. And lo and behold, it had this woman, Amber Lee, a longtime liberal Democrat consultant in Alaska, who's supporting Mary Peltola. It had her as the author of the sham candidate's press release. You can't make this up. That was a moment when they got their hands caught in the cookie jar. And now, by the way, this Amber Lee, the press is wanting to talk to her back home. She is in like a witness protection program. Right? She's gone deep, right? Now, she won't talk to anybody. But look, it also shows desperation. And here's the bigger point. I'm going to run on a record that's really, really strong for my state, for my country. I've gotten things done for Alaska, for America. You and I have talked about it. I'm always ranked as one of the top 5 senators getting bills passed into law. Last year, I had more bills passed into law than any senator in the U.S. Senate. My opponent, very different record. 2 terms in the House, not one bill signed into law, but it's also the vision. Like, where do Republicans want to go, especially with the state of Alaska? I'll tell you where they want to go. Develop our resources, create jobs, create oil and gas and critical mineral and mining jobs, build our military, protect our Second Amendment. The Democrats, Schumer, everybody else, they have the opposite view. When they get power, the first thing they do, whether it's Biden or Schumer, is they shut down the great state of Alaska. They gut the jobs. They gut our military. That's bad for my state, but it's also bad for America. So we're going to win on the record. We're going to win on our vision. Man, I think it shows a sign of desperation from this campaign, thinking, geez, we can't beat Dan Sullivan, the senator, on his record. It's really strong. Their opponent's record is horrible. Can't beat him on the vision. Man, Alaskans want to unleash our economy. They want to develop our resources. They want to build up our military, which is all things I've done. Democrats don't want to do it. So they're kind of like, can't beat him on the record, can't beat him on the vision, so let's cheat. Let's play dirty tricks. And they got caught. And right now, the lieutenant governor and director of elections said, can't do that in Alaska. If your primary purpose is to confuse voters, to cheat and rig it for someone else, you don't qualify.
All right, I got to jump in with a quick warning from Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He says that it is regulatory malpractice that we are not doing early testing for Alzheimer's. Check this out. He's right, and it makes political sense because 4 out of 5 voters say they're more likely to support a candidate who prioritizes better access to Alzheimer's detection, diagnosis, and treatment. And here's the cool thing. It's super easy right now, and we've got all the tools. More than 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's, and that number could easily double by 2060. That's unbelievable. Families are tired. Medicare and Medicaid can't afford it. Waiting to intervene is setting up a massive, massive crisis. We have the tools like simple blood tests that can identify the risk years before the symptoms fully hit. 86% of Republicans support expanded Medicare coverage for tests and treatment. The tools are here. The policymakers just need to implement them. Join the fight. Learn more. Go to marketinstitute.org. That's marketinstitute.org. Now back to the show. Well, and look, you mentioned this, but obviously I don't need to tell you, Alaska is at like the tip of the spear when it comes to our national security in Russia. Oh, yeah. And I know you've delivered big on this. But let me just ask you this, because I cover the races, all of these top races in the show all the time. Alaska doesn't have a lot of public data. You're right. Schumer's been touting it. It's Alaska, like Iowa, like a couple of these other states, are cheap dates when it comes to the media market. Yeah. So you're going to get a lot of people in Washington that says, oh, maybe we can pick off Alaska. Peltola's won 2 times, as you've said, statewide, because you guys only have an at-large. So tell us right now, and give us the 60-second elevator pitch without public data, why we believe, I know you've had a long record of winning, so that's, but Democrats, as you said, Schumer's making it very clear, they see a path through Alaska, they're getting people to buy in this. What is the public data, the money, what do we need to know about why Alaska under Dan Sullivan will stay in Republican hands?
Well, look, I mean, the Democrats are flooding the state with money, right? So we are being outspent. They started going up far left, dark money groups, George Soros, Schumer, super PACs. They started going up with false negative attack ads against me a year ago, right? Again, so they got the money. There's no doubt they're spending the money. They see Alaska, in some ways as a cheap date. But again, Sean, it comes down to the record, and my record is really strong. And by the way, Alaskans, they expect their delegation to produce. This is why my opponent, Peltola, was fired in 2024, right? I mean, she was an incumbent, and she outspent her challenger almost 7-1. She had a ton of money, but the Alaskan people are like, no, we need members of our delegation to deliver. And that's what I have always done. That is my reputation. And then it goes to the vision. Like I said, Republicans, me in the lead, especially with what we've gotten done for Alaska. We want to unleash our economy, grow our economy, good paying jobs, more money in the pockets of hardworking families, and build our military. We've gotten huge investments in other areas, healthcare, aviation safety. These are all things that matter and hugely to my state, and it's a giant contrast. So on those issues, we're going to win. Every race that I've been in, I've been outraised. 2014, when I beat a Democrat incumbent, we were outraised over 2-1. My 2020 reelect, we were outraised over 3-1. We'll be outraised, heck, more than that in this race. But here's the thing. That's one source of resources, money. The other source of resources is the people. And to get out the vote and the people in our state who believe in what I'm doing, seeing my record versus my opponents, seeing the vision of what we want to get done as Republicans for Alaska versus my opponents. If she won, which she wouldn't, her first vote would be to empower Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Leader. That would be an unmitigated disaster for our state. So we're going to get all that word out. But as I mentioned, they see this. They see the writing on the wall. So they're like, geez, we're desperate. Let's go cheat. And by the way, I think this is going to blow up in their faces already back home. Even Democrats are like, man, dirty tricks don't work. Come on, Democrats. If you're going to try and beat Dan Sullivan, do it on the record, do it on the vision, but you're resorting to dirty tricks. It is ticking off people back in Alaska because, again, they're treating my great constituents with contempt.
I think they went a little too far this time. The real Senator Dan Sullivan, I'm glad to have you back on the show. So let's stay in touch and keep that in Alaska's Republican column for us.
Absolutely. And by the way, Sean, real quick on that, DanSullivanForAlaska.com. Go to that.
It's the real one, right? That's the right one.
DanSullivanForAlaska.com. You can go on the website, see all that we've gotten done. And if you're in the mood, you can help support us.
That's right. Dan Sullivan for Alaska.com. Senator, thanks for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean.
You bet. All right. I hope you enjoyed that. I've seen a lot of dirty tricks in 30 years in politics. What they did in Alaska, though, I mean, honestly, that's one of the one. I mean, I got to tip your hat. The idea that you're getting a guy with the name who's willing to change his middle initial, who's doing this. I mean, it's almost like they did go a little too far. And for all these Democrats that say they had nothing to do with it, the point that Senator Sullivan made there, by the way, wouldn't you just respond and say, no, I actually wanted to run and I admired his signs and so I copied them. They're not even responding because they know they're guilty. And I think that I actually, if anything, I can't believe how far they went. The idea that you didn't think you'd get caught at this, it was too cute by half. But anyway, there's some other interesting stuff that I want to make sure I put on your radar because, frankly, it didn't get a lot of attention elsewhere. On Tulsi Gabbard's last day as the director of national intelligence, she put out one heck of a video implicating Anthony Fauci and what he had done and what he had covered up. And I know a lot of speculations occurred before, but it was always denied. Oh, you can't prove it without evidence. You know what the media says. Well, she had a stack of evidence this time. Take a listen to what she said on her last day.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives.
Now, here's the thing. These are the documents. You're not going to, you didn't, by the way, this is amazing. Zero coverage on ABC, CBS, CNN, NBC, New York Times, or MS Now. Zero. The Director of National Intelligence announces this and no one covers it. You could say, if you're those guys reflexively, they're going to say, oh, without evidence, whatever. Although there was a ton of evidence clearly there. They didn't even cover it. They didn't acknowledge the director of national intelligence making these charges against Anthony Fauci, who, by the way, got a pardon preemptively on his last day from Biden. No coverage, no nothing. Why not? Think about this. All of the people implicated, at the very least, even if you are the biggest Fauci sympathizer that said he did the right thing for the right reasons, he was wrong. He lied to Congress. He said that they didn't fund gain of function research. That's simply not true, and the documents now back it up. Wouldn't you want to know about this? Why, when President Trump says something and they say that that's contradicted by the facts, or here's what the evidence say, they just do not want to touch Fauci. He is a god to them. They probably all have the painting of him hanging in their offices. Nothing can be done to undermine the all-great Fauci. This is unbelievable. Fauci may have a pardon. He may not be able to go to jail or be prosecuted. I don't know. But what I will tell you is he deserves to be held accountable. At the very least, we should have lessons learned. A generation of Americans will never be the same because of this. We blew billions and billions of dollars. We made people take jabs. We changed their lives and their mental health. And no one wants to talk about this? Are you kidding me? This is insane. No matter how big of a do-gooder you are or a defender of the left, understanding the consequences of this should be something that we all want to get to the bottom of. It is unbelievable to me. And again, zero coverage. Nada. Not one utterance that Tulsi put all this out. But you know what they did want to focus on? Algae. Algae in the reflecting pool. I'm not kidding. They didn't have a second for that. But they sure as heck had plenty of time when it comes to algae in the reflecting pool. There's a bunch of people now. All of these people, CNN's going down testing bottles. Oh, look at all the algae in the reflecting pool. ABC, you name it. They all have plenty of time to talk about algae growing in the reflecting pool. But they don't have time to talk about Fauci's cover-up of COVID and the impact it had on our entire society. None. And Jeanine Pirro making it very clear, just so you know, if you do care about the reflecting pool, that if you go out there and you do any damage, you're going to be prosecuted. Take a listen.
Well, it depends. Anyone who is in a position of vandalizing or attempting to vandalize the reflecting pool will face the criminal justice system in D.C. Look, the president has made it a priority to make D.C. not only safe but beautiful. And there are several citations that have been handed out to individuals, and these are cases that will be prosecuted to the full extent. If there are more serious products that are put into the reflecting pool to create more algae or a bigger problem, then we'll consider more serious charges. But make no mistake, making D.C. beautiful is a priority. And if you damage, vandalize, or do anything to impact something like the reflective pool, you can be prosecuted.
And how big a problem is vandalism?
Okay, well, you heard that there. More serious charges. In fact, multiple people have already been arrested for vandalism at the Lincoln Memorial and the reflecting pool. But that's what the press wants to focus on. How much algae is there, not whether or not we had a worldwide pandemic funded by our own government that Anthony Fauci apparently lied for. So, huge stuff on that. As I mentioned, a great week coming your way on the show. Adam Kincaid here tomorrow, the president's top political advisor, James Blair, on Wednesday, Ambassador Monica Crowley on Thursday. So, this is going to be, oh, and by the way, we'll reverse it. So we'll do the panel on Friday because we can get Monica at the live at the State Fair on Thursday. So just so you know, don't get upset if you're always excited about the panel. Big deal on that. Anyway, thanks for kicking off your week for us. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.